imports, new and old, are making their presence felt in the Commissioner's Cup. Which reinforcements have been impressive so far in the mid-season conference? Well, let's find out. Joining us for an all-out discussion is Basketball Analyst Juan Banal. Good morning, Juan. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, Christine. Thank you for having me again.
Well, we're so happy to have you. You know, of course, the Commissioner's Cup is back after 3 years. But what makes this edition different, of course, is that we have the guest team, the Bay Area Dragons from the East Asia Super League, or EASL. And, of course, we look at the team standings. The Dragons are on the top with 3 wins and 0 losses. Your thoughts on the PBA? First up, bringing in a guest team for the Commissioner's Cup.
I think it's a really great idea to have a guest team, especially in the caliber of where the Dragons is. They're a top tier competitive squad. They're really challenging every PBA team that they're going to be facing. From what I understand, they swept their pre-tournament or pre-games. So I think it's healthy for the league because, you know, you've got left and right different comments from the netizens complaining how biased or unbiased or what have you, and just different opinions. And throwing in a guest team into the mix kind of stirs it up and gives us a different feel and look to what we're usually accustomed to. So I think it was a really good move, a good idea. It levels up, it challenges, and it helps us measure also where we are competitively for our teams. And again, I hope we have more. I hope we have more guest teams in the future that would really challenge us and could break the mold of what we're already used to in every conference that we watch.
And I guess their score 3-0 is as expected, considering, you know, they went into the Commissioner's Cup with all of their practice games undefeated. And speaking of the Bay Area, let's talk about their import. Well, so far it's Miles Powell, 6'2", okay? He might be the smallest import, but it's definitely been so amazing so far in the first 3 games of the PBA for the Bay Area Dragons. Now, here are his stats, Juan. Now, we have over 36 points, 8 rebounds, 1 point, 7 assists, and of course 3 steals per game. We know that he is going to be replaced, okay, by when Bay Area faces Ginebra. That will be this Sunday. And first, your thoughts on Miles Powell and how he's been bringing his A game for the Bay Area, and of course maybe their upcoming import. Andrew Nicholson.
I'm not so sure if you did his height, which is 6'2", I think you did.
Yeah.
But for him to get an average of 8 rebounds per game, that says a lot already about how he competes. But I think he's a good matchup for us locally. That's why he's been dominating that area. Usually, in the tournaments that we have imports, it's typically just in Brownlee that's the outlier. But most of the time, teams get imports that are off that height requirement. But this time around, if you have a shorter import in Miles Powell, then usually who defends him are not other imports, but rather local players. And so having local players defending Miles Powell and him really just dominating and showing what he's made of, challenges our local players to step up our defensive game and match up against him. But he's very, very impressive so far with what he's shown.
Well, any thoughts on Andrew Nicholson, who's set to replace him for the next 4 games?
Well, it's going to give us, I think it was very strategic for them to make that shift to getting a taller import to actually play against Ginebra. I would have loved to see him play against Justin Brownlee. But, you know, again, I think they're choosing the imports that they're going to field depending on who they're up against. And so it was a good move, I think, and it's a good opportunity for us to see this new import come into play.
Okay, well, let's talk about the Magnolia Hotshots. Meantime, tied with the NLEX Road Warriors in the standings, 2-0. Ito naman yung import naman ni Magnolia, si Nick Rakocevic. Well, definitely he means business. First game pa lang against Terra Firma, 45 points and 25 rebounds. Then comes back with a 21 points and 24 boards versus Converge. Mukhang talaga, in your opinion, Juan, mukha ba talaga na naka-jackpot yung Magnolia sa import nila? I mean, as early as now, do you see Magnolia as a potential title contender sa Commissioner's Cup?
Historically speaking, Magnolia has been doing a good job in selecting who their import is, who fit their system, the kind of play. And I think Rakocevic is, again, he's putting up numbers that imports are supposed to put up. That's for one, right? And if imports in this tournament are not putting up this kind of numbers, then you might have to question why that import is still in your lineup. But, he's been very impressive. He's complementary to the likes of Calvin Abueva, Ian Sangalang. And he's playing his role. He's getting those offensive boards, defensive rebounds as well. Scoring, they've got a lot of options for that one. But again, Magnolia is known to be a defensive team, and I think this import is doing what he does best and fits perfectly in the system of Magnolia.
Okay, well, another team na perfect din sa Commissioner's Cup. We have the NLEX Road Warriors, also 2-0. I mean, they are also going through their own transition period now that they have Coach Frankie Lim, who is in charge of the team. Yung import naman nila, si Earl Clark, he's been playing really well. He played really well against Blackwater last Friday, 38 points and 25 rebounds. Now, if this continues, if he continues to play this way, do you see NLEX also making a deeper push come playoff time?
I think one of the frustrations of NLEX fans is that they're actually always there. In the eliminations, they play well. And then they eventually fall short when it comes postseason. But I think Earl Clark, when I watched him play, he made basketball look so easy, very simple, no flashy movements. And again, like I said, he's putting up numbers that imports should be putting up in this tournament. If your import is not putting up this kind of number, then obviously you're going to be in the losing end of the standing. But NLEX and Magnolia, they have imports who have been working hard, putting in the numbers, and that's why they're in top of the standing.
There you go. Well, our PBA discussion with basketball analyst Juan Banal continues after this quick breather. You're watching Sports Desk on CNN Philippines, where we go all out for the day's top sports stories. We'll be right back. We're back. Thank you so much for joining us. Well, our guest today, basketball analyst Juan Banal, and we continue our discussion on the imports, old and new, of course, making their presence felt here in the Commissioner's Cup. You mentioned already about Justin Brownlee para sa Ginebra. Of course, familiar na si JB sa PBA, and he's even a candidate for naturalization para sa Gilas. I spoke to Tim Cohn and ahead of the Commissioner's Cup, and he said, parang no-brainer. Parang he said choosing Justin was really a no-brainer. We all know the successful partnership that Ginebra has had with Brownlee. Do you think na posible na figure out na yung mga teams in terms of how Brownlee plays? I mean, whether he would definitely be an effective player for Ginebra. Would that also be an advantage or disadvantage in terms for Ginebra of not changing or finding a newer import, taller import? I think you're on mute. Let's try that again. There you go.
I think it's an advantage to always have an import coming back because familiarity will always be an advantage. And the preparation time for Ginebra to have Justin Brownlee on board is definitely an asset. But a lot of doubters always talk about Justin Brownlee and saying, oh, he's probably too old. Maybe this conference is not going to do it. And then he proves everybody wrong. And I think that's the beauty of having somebody like Justin Brownlee. And now with Jamie Malonzo also in the lineup, and then Scotty Thompson just winning the MVP, you're talking about a different kind of Ginebra with an import that I think just keeps getting better. And, it's a lot of exciting things that are going to happen for Ginebra. And I'm sure the fans can't wait to see their idol, somebody that they love and embrace now, like every Filipino, like a Filipino close to their heart. And I'm sure they're excited to see Justin Brownlee on the floor with these new guys.
There you go. I mean, they're just starting things up in Ginebra. They're preparing of course, for the playoff. Now, two teams are set for their conference debut later. Let's talk about the San Miguel. Okay, let's focus on them first, which is facing Blackwater. San Miguel coming off that victorious campaign in the Philippine Cup. At syempre, nagulat talaga lahat when they decided to change imports. I mean, I just spoke to Coach Leo yesterday, and he mentioned, yes, that Thomas Robinson was injured. not sure if he would be able to play today, and all of a sudden news came out that, he would be replaced by Diamond Stone. What do you think about this? I mean, of course, the sudden change and of the chemistry of the game. Take me through that whole process of what actually happened there.
Well, according to reports, Thomas Robinson, I think, is experiencing some injury. I think it's his back that's giving him the problem. And I assume that, they really had their mindset or they were set with Thomas Robinson and was hopeful that he'll, probably recover or be 100% come game time. But unfortunately, they kind of, tested the waters, anticipated that that Thomas Robinson won't make it. So they had to field a different import in Diamond Stone, who actually is a veteran. He's played in the NBA. He's played overseas. In the last 2018 FIBA Asia Championship, he actually averaged 23 points, 8.8 rebounds, and 2.4 assists. And I think he's a tall import. And I assume this is going to be a temporary import, but they needed an import that can adjust real quick with the system of San Miguel. Him being a veteran, I think that's what they needed at this point. But looking at the lineup, he being a tall import, that's going to be a loaded front court with Junmar Fajardo, Mo Tautua, Rondi Brundial, Vic Manuel. So the big question is, who are you going to sit down in this conference when you know that all these guys are really doing well? So I think this is just going to be a temporary fix. They're still looking forward to having Thomas Robinson at 100%, and maybe they would refield him back to the lineup. But who knows? We don't really know. We can only assume. But reading and basing it on, just how things are panning out. But I do hope so that we get to see Thomas Robinson. He's a really good import, and I'm sure the Filipinos would love him also.
Okay, well let's just step back a little bit and trying to find the timeline of how this happened. I mean, would you assume, okay, let's talk about assumptions here. Would you assume that maybe Diamond was already there? I mean, knowing that Robinson was already injured, maybe he was able to even attend some practices with SMB?
I'll be honest,
Okay.
Christine, I don't know the full story that Thomas Robinson was able to practice. I think he was just a diamond that they wanted to grab and let nobody else have. They were looking forward to having a guy like Thomas Robinson in the lineup. And they were hopeful, I think, that he would make it come game time to be 100%. But I do believe that San Miguel, being a really, a top-tier organization, they had backup plans, just in case this happened. So I think Diamond Stone was one of their backup imports just in case Thomas Robinson won't make it. But I think they're keeping him in the reserve list just to make sure that when the time comes that he can play, then San Miguel can field him. But they're hoping that Diamond Stone will hold the fort. I assume he's already held more, practice time with San Miguel more than Thomas Robinson has. So we don't know. We're going to see it with the way they're going to play against Blackwater later.
There you go. Well, that definitely makes a lot of sense. Well, on the other side, we have the TNT Tropang Giga taking on the Magnolia Hotshots for its first assignment. We have former NBA player Cameron Oliver, who is reinforcing TNT. And of course, this is going to be definitely a tough import match for him since he's facing Nick Rakovic. We've seen TNT and Magnolia battle each other in the past. Your expectations for this game later?
Well, it's going to be tough for TNT, and the import, Cameron Oliver, will do a lot of heavy lifting, given that, according to news, roughly around, I think, 5 players from TNT will not be playing. So they have around 4 players that are injured, and then obviously Poy Aram is also serving that suspension from the last conference. So they will heavily depend on Cameron Oliver to play against and really do the scoring and defensive lifting for TNT on their first game. And unfortunately, they have to play against Magnolia, who they competed in the Philippine Cup in 2021. And then they're red hot, especially with the kind of import that they have. So it's going to be a big challenge for TNT. They'll try to, gut it out and grind it out. And hopefully it's enough to get them sneak in a victory. But as it is, having players injured, it's going to be a tough night for TNT against Magnolia, who's doing really well. But again, that goes without saying also that Magnolia has a couple of players that are injured.
Yeah, so I guess they're just going to have to hold down the fort until their players, heal as quickly as possible. And speaking of quickly, Juan, let's just go through, di ba, yung mga trades. It's always been a hot topic. Pre-Commissioner's Cup, during the Commissioner's Cup. Okay, let's talk about the trades that happened, that some are still in the process of happening, that haven't happened yet. I mean, based on the ones that already, have been laid out, were they good trades? I mean, what do you think?
Well, for one, they're controversial trades because, people have been responding and reacting to them. But I think overall, after a tournament or a conference like that, you do expect that teams would move around players once they feel like, we're gunning for the championship in the next conference. It's an import-laden conference. We have a guest team. What adjustments can we make? Because I do believe that no organization would want to stay the same if you didn't perform well in the previous conference. So trades were expected. We just didn't know who's going to get traded, how they're going to get traded. Obviously, one of the more painful ones would be Troy Rosario getting traded. Because of, again, him being a staple in TNT. But the rest, I do believe that it's a good shakeup. It's a good adjustment. And adjustment should happen. And we're hoping that some other trades can happen just to kind of hopefully create some balance in the league. Especially with taking into consideration a guest team that has a different kind of lineup. They have the opportunity also to change imports. So there are a lot of moving variables in this conference. Having imports also come and go. So having the right locals and the right combinations that can support your team and could support your import would be, I think, the most leading provocation for teams to have those trades.
Okay, well, definitely all eyes are going to be on the PBA and UAAP today. But not only that, but all eyes, and all ears have also, been talking and wagging about this Andre Felix. Have you heard about Andre Felix and the fact that this is definitely breaking news? He has popped the question to Pauline Versosa, and luckily for us and for Andre, Pauline said yes. So they are officially engaged. Let's break it down for our viewers. Tell me what you think about that one.
I think the more shocking part about this news is that Pauline said yes. No, just kidding. This was a long time coming. Everybody's nagging Andre to pop the question, and he did it in the most dramatic and Andre way, doing it in Paris, and just such a romantic yet simple gesture. And I think it's something that people, especially Pauline, will remember. And again, Andre just being Andre, nagpa-suspense pa si Andre. But people felt there were a lot of assumptions. Them traveling to Europe, I think people kind of felt like this was coming. We would have been surprised if he didn't pop the question, I would say. And when he comes back here, we're going to grill him if he didn't. But he did. So we're really happy, and congratulations to Pauline and Andre.
There you go. Well said. That is definitely in true Andre fashion. Thank you so much for joining us, Juan, and we hope to talk to you again soon to analyze basketball and to analyze Andre's love life as well. We're looking forward to have you back.
That was more fun talking about Andre.
There you go. Once again, we just spoke to basketball analyst and soon to be love analyst Juan Banal.